Hello, everybody. My name is Angelo and welcome to the Multifamily Man podcast, powered by Total Wealth Academy. So on the show, I talk about various aspects of multifamily investing, some tips, some tricks, just some general advice. But today, I'm going to talk about what not to do when buying a property or looking at a property. There's definitely some things that you should not do. We'll hear, depending on who you're talking to, some people say, well, it's okay to do this, okay to do that. But the things that I'm going to discuss today, it's kind of a general senses that you shouldn't do them. So one of the big things for people is the market, right? Oh, my market isn't a good market. And this is true. Some people say, well, every market's good. They're just not looking at the opportunities, blah, blah, blah. That ain't true, man. I look at some properties sometimes out on the West Coast in certain heavily populated areas. Look like Southern California, Northern California, Bay Area, Seattle, New York City, parts of Chicago. I'm talking about, really dense populations. There really are no good deals when you're looking at cash flow, looking at cap rates. So depending on your market, it may not be ideal to invest in your own market when you're looking at apartments, or looking at rental properties in general. Now, those areas are great for flips, because they're expensive, right? You can get a good deal, bam, but as far as buying and holding, a lot of times those market conditions or those sub-market conditions aren't really ideal for the cash flow investor, okay? So sometimes you do have to go out of your market to find good deals. In my opinion, there's no better place than the Midwest or Southeast, depending. Some people would say some of the places like Tennessee and Kentucky aren't the Midwest or the Southeast, and that's fair too. But those places, great. Missouri, my home state, Missouri, Indiana, Ohio, Kentucky, Tennessee, like those are probably the best places and best markets right now as far as investing in apartments. Then there are still other cities and sub-markets that are great. Here in Houston, we have several sub-markets that are great. But the biggest thing is when you're looking at the market, you have to learn the market. You can't just go and say, yeah, okay, well, Cincinnati, Ohio is good, and just start looking at buying or trying to buy. I mean, you really have to get an understanding of the market and the sub-market. So that's the most important. That's the first thing. Know the market. Know that market before you buy. And you can do that several ways. You can do that by working with brokers locally. You can do that by finding management companies that you're going to be using. If the, again, the property's not in your market, you're going to need good management. And then the other way really is getting online, doing it the old school way, and looking up things, right? Looking at statistics, looking at numbers, seeing what the median income for 1 mile and 5 miles, and the median age in 1 mile and 5 miles, job growth rate within the submarket and the general market over the last 3 to 5 years. So these are the things that you really have to look at to make sure that you're not investing somewhere that's dying, essentially. You don't want to invest in a city or a submarket that's losing 3% of its population every year, right? Because that's a lot of people over a course of 4 or 5 years gone that you can't rent to, right? And they're not coming back. All right. So knowing the market and knowing the submarket is very important. The next step, or the next big thing that you want to do is make sure, again, if you're not in your market, right? You're going somewhere else. And honestly, even if you're staying in your market, Being hands-on. You do not want to be this person that is not active in your investments. Now, some people might hear that and say, well, I don't want to be there every day. That's fair. I understand. I don't want to be there every day either. That's why I'm here. Got tired of being there every day, right? And when I say just be hands-on, it means understand, right? So these next two there's really two things in one. Is the management and being hands-on. If you know what you're doing and you like to be that active, go for it. If you have the experience, go for it. But if you don't, you have to find a great, not good, great property management company or a great property manager. That is going to be the difference. The management of the property is always the difference. Markets can go up, markets can go down. But if you have a good manager or great manager or a great management company, your property will be okay, right? In almost every case that I've ever seen where a property was in disarray or a property was failing, it is directly linked to the management, whether it's a property management company or the current owner. They're not managing the property correctly. Okay? But even when you find that great property manager or you find that great property management, you must do this next thing, and which is the next thing's on the list of something that you don't want to do. You don't want to not check on your property, right? You don't want to be the guy that says, or girl that hears, oh yeah, everything's going good, sir. Everything's going good. Great, ma'am. Yeah, we're hitting all our numbers. Yeah, 100% occupied. No work orders. Oh, okay, great. Go to Starbucks. Go to my kid's soccer game. Then a year later, you want to go sell it and it's not worth shit. You can trust, but always verify. That's the next thing. You don't want to trust and not verify. You want to trust, right? That's the biggest thing about relationships is trust. All relationships are built on trust. Spouse, parent, child. It's all about trust. They're all built on trust. Friendships are all built on trust. So you do want to trust, but you still want to verify. If my son told me he did the dishes, all right, son, thank you. Good job. I'm proud of you. Thanks for being responsible. Within the next 5 minutes, I'm walking in that damn kitchen. Like, I trust him, right? My daughter, yeah, Dad, I cleaned the bathroom. All right, honey, thank you. Within the next 5 minutes, I'm walking in that bathroom, and I'm still verifying that they did it, right? Even though I trust them. This is the same thing with your property manager, your on-site staff, or if you have a property management company. Trust what they're saying, but verify. If you're hiring a third-party management company, they should be giving you monthly reports. Whether they email it to you, whether you hop on, a great thing now is Zoom. Zoom and things like Zoom have been normalized thanks to the pandemic, where you don't have to go and sit in their office. You don't have to try to hop on the Zoom. They can show you the numbers for that month or that quarter. They should show you something every month. And they should also have a quarterly report and a yearly report so you can see the trend, see how things are going, see how things are moving along. But you always want to verify. Always, always, always. Okay? Excuse me. The other thing is you don't want to lie to yourself. Again, these are things that you don't want to do. But I'm going to tell you what you do want to do after I tell you what you don't want to do. You don't want to lie to yourself. Okay. And this can be hard for a lot of people because sometimes we take our confidence and optimism for not lying to ourselves. You have to be honest about your abilities when it comes to this business. When you're looking at a property, if it's too much for you to handle, if you don't have the skill set to even begin to process how to improve the property, don't do it. Don't buy it. Right? Like, don't. This is not this is your money, or possibly even other people's money. You have to stay within your abilities, right? And you have to know, what you're capable of and what you're not capable of, right? So if you're a newbie, like, don't go buy something that's a complete repositioning, right? And there's 80% vacant. None of those 80% vacant, half of them are down units, and don't do that. Find a smaller property that doesn't need a ton of work, so you can kind of get your feet wet and get an understanding and do what you can do. And even if you're working with a property management company that specializes in certain things, I think that opens the door up a little bit. But you have to be honest with your abilities. And if you can't do it, right? If you don't have that skill set, don't have it yet, or you don't even want to gain that skill set, you have to partner with, you have to find the people that do have that skill set. Not only do they have it, that they thrive on it, right? There's a lot of people with a lot of different skill sets, but you have to find the people with those skill sets that feel like, God put me on this earth to do this. Those are the people who are going to succeed at whatever they're doing, right? And there's nothing wrong with admitting, hey, I'm not good at that. I suck at that. I have no desire to be good at it, right? Like, I can't tell you details about electrical work or plumbing work, and I have no desire to know more, and that's okay. That's why we have electricians, and that's why we have plumbers. If my AC goes out, I know some basic stuff, and that's just from over a decade in business. But I have no desire to know how to do all of that. That's why we have HVAC guys and HVAC women, right? So just like you would call them, or if your tooth was hanging out your freaking head, you would go to the dentist. It's the same thing. Don't look at some of these properties and lie to yourself and say, I have the skill set to turn this property around. I have the skill set and the knowledge to turn this property around. You find the people that have that knowledge and you hire them and let them do their job. I think the perfect example and best and greatest example of this was Henry Ford. They gave Henry Ford the 5th degree about building cars. What do you know about engines? What do you know about tires? What do you know about? Not much. I got a phone right here, though. I can call you about the guy that knows more about engines than anybody else in the world. I got a phone right here. Goes direct to, our tire maker, and the woman over there knows more about tires than anybody else in the world, right? So he was smart enough to hire and partner with people who specialize in these things, and he brought it all together for his goal to work. That's the kind of mindset you have to have, right? You have to be willing to understand and accept and admit that you don't know everything, and work with those people who specialize in those certain things, to make your business work and make your goals work, and for you to achieve those goals. And there's no shame in it, right? And I think the most important, all these things are important, guys, all of them. But in my opinion, this last one is the most important one, okay? I'm gonna look at the camera and say it. So it's weird looking right in the camera, but I'm saying it. If you have not seen the property, if you've not seen every unit in the property, do not buy it. If you have not put eyes on, don't buy it. Right? Now, again, you might get to the point where there's somebody on your team that does that, and that's what they specialize in. But if you yourself or somebody on your team or in your company have not put eyes on that property and damn near every unit, don't buy it. One of the syndicators that Total Wealth Academy works with, Rockstar Capital, Robert Martinez, they bought a pretty big property. I think it was like 400 units. It was a big property. And I think they went in every unit except 9 of them. And that was only because those people had tested positive for COVID and they did not want to risk, cross-contamination or exposure. I'm sorry. They didn't want to risk exposure. So that's 490 or 391 units. They went in all of them. They inspected all of them. That's what it takes, guys. You have to put eyes on this stuff. You have to get on the roofs. If you're not going to get on the roof or know nothing about roof, what did I just say? Get you a roofer. Get you a general contractor that knows all this stuff, right? And they know all that shit. That's what they do. Take them with you. Have them put eyes. Have them take notes and see everything that needs to be done. Because I have heard and seen, thank God, never been a part of, directly, horror stories of people buying properties that they have never seen. I've had the unfortunate job of third-party management for a property that somebody bought sight unseen. The numbers looked good. The numbers looked decent, and they had to buy a property for tax reasons. Rich people problems that we all aspire to have, right? I have to spend $2 million. I have to spend $5 million for tax reasons. It was one of those situations. The property was horrible. Absolutely horrible. Right? But you don't want to be in that situation. Nobody wants to be in that situation. He was actually pissed. That group was pissed that they were in that situation because the previous management company they were working with didn't, looks fine. Go ahead, guys. And didn't put eyes on it like they should have. So that is by far the most important thing is, you got to go through all the units. You can't just trust what they tell you. You can't just read the OM that the broker sends out. Yeah, all of them were rehabs 2 years ago. That don't mean much because they all rehabbed 2 years ago. But you've had high turnover. There could be a lot of property damage. And they were renovated to what standard? Whose standards were they? Is this a B property and they redid them to C standards? That doesn't help you. You still need to go in and see the state and the condition of each property, the common areas, the hallways, the stairs, the painting. How is the office decorated? Is there an office? Right? You need to know all of that. But guys, that really wraps it up for me today. Again, if you have any questions on any of the past episodes or anything I talked about here today, you can always reach out to me via email at angelo@totalwealth.com. And again, this is the Multifamily Man podcast powered by Total Wealth Academy. Thanks for joining me today. Have a good one.